What about
Yeah, that.
all right.
Yeah.
I'm not the exception. It's only Barry. It's not. That's pretty good.
There you go. See?
I love that, Mr. Cole. That's good stuff.
Yeah. See?
Dang, go. Yeah, he's on your ass.
Sense. It don't make no sense.
Sexy men aren't really talkative.
Now that's a wise man. Stop. I don't know. The wise man sit back. The wise man sits back and listen. Huh? Yeah, he's gonna sit back and listen, but he gonna share his wisdom. But he know he's talking to someone that see. According. If y'all see it, ain't you wasting my breath. Kind of slow disappointment. John.
So, how do you increase the size of the gauges so they're like,
Just a little bigger, a little bigger.
they go up by like millimeters? Okay. Right.
These are crazy.
I've seen some people like, I bet when they take those out, it's like, hey, you ever thought about putting a fishing lure in your ear? Stretch it down. Oh, saw that. It was smaller than it. Bigger.
Looks like it's the same size.
Well, that's not.
Yeah. I got energy floating out of the coffee. Wow. It's coming out of my ears, my brain sac. It's swelling. I don't know if it's energy. It is. Might be the wet brain. The water, boy. Can be pretty bad. Once you reach that point, there's no recovery. Yeah. That's what I heard. You know? What brain? Wet brain. Alcohol. Yeah.
You need to recover from it on the anybody.
Dr. G, have you ever been around someone that actually had wet brain?
Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
Every time you look in the mirror, he's around.
Yes, it's not a good thing. All right, I lost my deal. What am I going to do now? I got 1 minute.
Don't be late.
Go back to the north and get it. Somebody's looking at it right up.
Either right, Dr. G. I'm going to do it. Come up with our own principle form.
We need to apologize to the class, to the group.
Oh, agree. Yeah, no, not agreement. We should start writing staff up. Like, it'd be like what they're in for their name, or their stats, and then we give it like their infraction. And then No, that's probably not a good idea. Probably should.
They wouldn't trust us anyway.
It's an accountability thing.
An accountability. Yeah. And why don't we just all have nap time? So that would be great.
I like that sound.
Mr. Washington, yes, sir. Can we incorporate nap time in our daily schedule?
That would be something you have to take up with the administration at the facility.
Well, all I'm suggesting is we have support from staff for the nap time.
Would you like cookies and milk as well?
Warm milk.
Actually,
Warm milk. Warm milk.
Warm milk.
Yes.
Wow, please.
what is wrong with that?
Would you like bull milk? Or would you like bull milk?
He's requesting full milk.
I almost stuck to that too. I caught it before I opened my mouth.
Should have.
All righty then. We're all ready, huh? All right. Where is it? We're missing one or two folk.
Well,
There we go. All right. Then. We're still talking about physical health in our recovery. And one of the things that causes us a lot of issues in recovery, and not only in recovery, but in life in general, is stress. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about stress. Now this morning, we have to get our sign-in sheets done. We have to sign in on the right place. We have to sign our names so that they're legible. Because if they're not legible, and if it doesn't get done, that stresses me out, right? Now you want to know something else that stresses me out? I wore my ears this morning. I wore my hearing aid so I could hear because I was in a clinical meeting, and this one doesn't seem like it's working. And if it's not working, it makes you hear even less. That's not a good thing. Also, we're bringing our book to class every time we come to class. One thing we're going to do real quickly, we're going to do some housekeeping a little bit this morning. So everybody's got their book, but I want to share this with you too. Now, I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm really not sure about North. I'm assuming it's about the same time period, but I'm not really sure about that. So if the time period is a little bit different at North, then y'all, fix it so it works for you guys over there too. But over here, we have specific times that we can use the telephone, right? Everybody knows that? Yeah, we have specific times. Those are the times we're going to be using the telephone, okay? If we are using the telephone and it's not at one of those specific times and you don't have your name on the list and all of that stuff, you lose your phone privileges. And if you're caught more than once, you lose the phone privileges for the whole house. So don't do it. Between 12 and 1, right? Y'all know that? Between 12 and 1, you can use the phone. That's just 1 hour. It's not very long. But between 5 and 6 in the afternoon, you can use the phone. Between 8 and 9, you can use the phone. Gives you an opportunity every day. That's 3 hours that you can use the phone. Any other time, we can't do that. Never, ever, never, ever, never, not ever, don't ever go into my office or into that office in there and pick the phone up and bring it back out there. It's not your purview. That's not your phone. It's my phone. So, when we move that phone, it'll be one of the RAs moving the phone or one of the counselors moving the phone. Go get that phone. And if you're there and you're on that phone, see, I got busted because somebody was on the phone and my boss walked through. So guess where my boss goes? To my office. And I'm in my office. Yeah, I'm working real hard. I'm all the way up to Grandmaster on solitaire. So I'm up to Grandmaster, and she comes in and rah, rah, rah. So that messed me up a little bit. But so look, and those things cause stress in my life. Don't do that. I'm not happy about that. But in your book on page 21, it's talking to us about being in good health. And look, one of the things we want to do is get into good health. This is one of the reasons that we're getting off drugs and alcohol. Let me tell y'all a little something I heard this morning on the news. It wasn't on the news. It was on Facebook, I think. And I was watching this guy who's supposed to be a doctor. Nowadays, you can't tell. Mr. Farmer and I were in there talking about that this morning. You can't tell if you're on there whether or not that's a real person or not anymore. We have to get to the place where we understand that could be real, but it may not be real either. But anyway, this guy was talking about drinking coffee, and he said that if you're diabetic, it is really super duper good for you to drink coffee. So I just wanted y'all to know this morning, because somebody, I don't know who it was, somebody pointed out that I was drinking coffee. So one of the things, look, we are looking at some things that's going to mess with our physical health. Our use of drugs and alcohol messes with our physical health, does it not? It does. It is really bad for us. The lack of exercise. If you don't exercise, you need to start exercising. If you do exercise, you need to increase your exercise. We need to be exercising. One of the other things that's going to mess us up really badly is stress. And stress will mess you up physically, but it will also mess you up emotionally and mentally and even spiritually. So we need to make sure that, look, we are controlling the stress in our life, because you cannot get rid of all that stress, right? Because if you are alive, and we so far, all of us in here are, then we're going to have some stress in our life, right? Life is just like that. You're going to have some stress in your life, no matter what's going on. But what we have to do is manage the stress that we have in our life. How have we been managing the stress?
Cheetos. Blah, blah, blah.
Say it again.
Cheetos.
Yeah, Cheetos?
Cheetos.
Cheetos. Oh, yeah. Oh, that, yeah. We've been using vodka, and we've been using, I thought he said Cheeto. Yeah,
I wish it was that simple.
Yeah, I handle some stress in my life with Cheetos sometimes, They sell those little tiny bags of Cheetos, and they're 2 for $1. So you can get one little bag of the real crunchy Cheetos and one little bag of the puffs and kind of mix them together. And that kind of helps me with my stress sometimes. But there are other ways, like you said, Cheetos and all of these other kinds of things. We were using drugs and alcohol to help us deal with stress. If you don't think so, then skip the next smoke break. You skip the next smoke break, and by the next smoke break, you will be stressed out, right? Because that drug that we've been using, nicotine is a depressant, and so we've been using that to calm ourselves down and to make ourselves feel better about stuff and all that kind of stuff. So this morning we're going to be talking a little bit about stress, and because that messes with our physical health, and so that's on page 21. We're not going to read it because we've been reading it a lot. So what causes stress in our life? I know at North can't see this very well, but this is a person who is stressed out. So what causes stress in our life?
Women.
Women cause you stress? Okay. Can men cause stress? I know that all of the ladies over at North are saying men cause stress. And relationships cause stress, don't they? You can have stress in your life. I was talking to a client yesterday who will remain unidentified because we just want to do that. But his wife was here, and his children were here, and his car was overheating. You think that caused some stress in his life? Yeah, right? That's going to cause some stress in that person's life because no matter how well you fix the problem, how well you deal with it, as you let that person leave, then you're not going with them and you don't know what's going on, so that causes a little bit of stress in your life, right? And there's all sorts of things. When we're here in treatment, guess where we're not? We're not with our families. We're not at home. So that causes a little stress in our lives. You know, every day, y'all know, I call my wife probably 3 or 4 times. I call her when we go on break. I'm going to go call her, see how she's doing. You know, one of the counselors came in this morning and said, you need to call your wife because the electricity is out in that area. I don't know why the electricity would be out, but, you know, sometimes it just goes out because why? It just wants to go out. So it goes out. And that causes all sorts of issues, but that'll cause stress in your life, right? If you're late for lunch, will that cause stress? Sure. If you get up in the morning, will that cause stress? Sure. You know, just about everything causes stress in our life. That's why we don't talk about getting rid of stress. We talk about managing stress because there's good stress and there's bad stress. If your daughter calls you and says, hey, you know, you're about to be a grandpa, that's stressful. Yeah. How about if you're a grandma? Is that stressful? Yeah. It's going to be stressful. It can be good stress or it can be bad stress, right? If your daughter's 12, that's some pretty bad stress, you know, that's going to cause. If your daughter's 22 and married and got a career going and all of this stuff going, then it's some pretty good stress. You know, I've had my daughter call me and say, Dad, guess what? You know, okay. Yeah. So we need to come up with some goals that's going to deal with how we're going to met with stress. And so we need to look at stress a little bit, and then we're going to talk about SMART. We've been trying to figure out what SMART is. SMART is how we set up the goals to help us do anything. Anything. This morning we're going to be talking about how SMART helps us set up goals to keep us from having issues with our stress. So, stress management, how to manage stress. Now we have goals. Oh, excuse me. I was in a clinical meeting and they beat me up, so I'm all choked up about all of that. So what causes stress? Everybody experiences stress, right? Sometimes we're going to experience some high stress. High stress is what we want to get out of our life. What does stress do to your body?
It's heat.
What is it? What is it?
Heart problem.
I can't see you.
Heart problem, lose weight.
Yeah.
You become fatigued, tired.
Yeah. A
Lose
lot of
motivation.
stress will make you tired,
Tense.
make you tense,
Angry.
make you angry. It's going to cause the fight or flight syndrome to enact, to activate. What is the fight or flight syndrome? That's just it. Yeah, fight or flight. Get you ready to fight or flight. That means your blood pressure goes up, your heart rate goes up, your muscles start getting more blood in them so that they're more powerful at that point in time. Your blood pressure goes up and does some damage to your blood vessels. So you can see where it is imperative that you don't stay at that level of high stress. You cannot stay at fight or flight, right? You are in a state of high anxiety at that point, and your body is ready to just do whatever it needs to do. If there's a bear coming at you, you need to take off running, or you need to stand and fight the bear. Which one's the most important? Stand and fight. No, the most important thing in a situation like that is having a small, weak partner with you.
Punching in the face, knock him out, run faster.
Slower than you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just get somebody slower than you. But yeah, you know, there was a story that we told all the time about the guy who jumped on the bear because they were walking on one of the state parks or something, and they build these high wooden walkways that you can walk through the woods on. It's kind of a low impact walking through the woods. And so his wife and daughter were walking ahead, and he and his son were walking back here, and a bear jumped out of the woods and jumped on his wife and began to do the mauling and everything. So what did he do?
Find a different wife.
He found a different wife. Yeah, that was kind of, she's used all up. But no, he went up and jumped on the bear and just started pummeling the bear, and after a few minutes, the bear took off. And you think, my God, how would a guy be able to do that? Because he went into that fight or flight situation. And when you get there, what happens? It's just like when you get really angry. What happens when you get angry?
Get stupid.
What?
You get stupid.
You get stupid. Yeah, your IQ drops by up to 40%. And so, you can get to a place where, because it's going to take somebody who's not really thinking straight to attack a bear, right? But I saw on Facebook the other day, and I have way too much time on Facebook, but I don't like television. I don't watch television. So I sit there, and my wife is watching television, and I'm scrolling to see what's funny on there. And I saw a bear came onto a porch at a house, and a house cat attacked the bear and ran the bear off. Sometimes bears just don't want to fool with it, because the bear can eat the cat. The bear can kill the guy, but this guy's pounding the bear, and the bear takes off running. So he saved his wife, he saved his daughter, he saved himself and everybody else. But it was because this stress level got up to the place where fight or flight kicked in, and his intelligence level dropped. Because let me tell you something, you can't whip an 800-pound bear, right? Unless you shoot him like 3, 4, 5 times. First, you're not going to do very well. None of us in here are going to do very well physically against a full-grown bear. So you have to have that down. So this is why we don't want to stay at that level all the time, right? Because if we stay at that level all the time, it's going to do some horrible, terrible, nasty physical things to our body. And we're not going to be doing well. It'll also do some horrible, terrible, nasty stuff to your intellect. It's not going to make you. You're not going to be in a good place. So all of us have some stress that happens. All of us have gotten into those places where you have some high stress. You're acquainted with the fight or flight thing. You know what the feeling is. You know that heightened feelings occur when our body releases stress hormones in response to stress. So that heightened feelings occur, and the hormones keep us alert and ready to deal with whatever's happening, or whatever's about to happen, or whatever we think's about to happen. While it's natural, serves us well in the short terms, our bodies have to recover from it. When you get to that place, it's serving us well. It's going to put us to a place where we can defend ourselves one way or another. Are we apt to run? Is that what you're going to do? The first thing that's going to run into your mind when there's a dangerous situation show up, you're going to run? Sometimes. Sometimes it makes sense, right? Sometimes it's time to go. Look, this place right here is dangerous. I need to be somewhere else, and the best way for me to get there is to run. So I'm going to go do that. But other times I don't have an avenue. I can't run. There's no place for me to run. So I'm going to stand, do what I can. Right. So it's natural. It causes our bodies need that time to recovery. Prolonged high stress can cause high blood pressure, a weakened immune system, heart disease, digestive problems, headaches, depression, aggressive behavior, low energy, and a lot of other common symptoms that we don't really want. So what does that tell us? We have to learn how to control our stress level. We have to manage stress. We're going to learn some specific techniques for managing our stress more effectively. These techniques can help us lower the stress, improve our readiness to respond in stressful situations. You'll also learn how to deal more easily with stress when it comes up. It's a good idea See, that squirrel is stressed out. Y'all see it? You can always tell when a squirrel's stressed out because they do the tail like that. Yeah.
I need treatment.
He needs treatment, you think? Yeah. So it's important to remember we cannot always control the causes of our stress. Like when somebody gets up and walks out of the group, that stresses me out. I can't control that, but it stresses me out. A lot of times we cannot control the cause of the stress. So we can control the way we react to the stress, right? We can control how we're reacting to it. So that's how I'm going to control my stress. That's how I'm going to manage my stress, is by controlling the way that I react to the stress. So we're going to set some goals to deal with our stress, and this is where our SMART acronym comes in this morning. We were all trying to figure out what the SMART thing says, what it's supposed to be. This is how we set up any goal for anything. So when we set up a goal for our stress and how to deal with our stress and how to manage with our stress, we want to use the acronym SMART, okay? So here's the deal. What's the S stand for? What? Stress? Stress, guys said stress. That S has got to stand for stress. It must stand for stress. It also can stand for specific. So the S stands for specific. We need to know that our goal is specific, right? It has to be specific. I'm going to deal with my stress. How am I going to deal with my stress? I have a new goal of dealing with my stress. What I want to do is be able to make that goal something specific. I'm going to, instead of being stressed out 14 times a day, I'm going to allow myself to be stressed out no more than 3 times a day. It's specific. Look, and here's the deal. I don't want, knowing full well that we're going to have to deal with stress in our lives because we cannot not have stress, but I don't want to be stressed out, right? Stressed out indicates that I'm out of my league with the stress, right? I cannot deal with the stress. So I know that I'm going to have stress, but I want to have it to a place where I can deal with it. What should the rest of this be? What is this? What's the M? Anybody got an idea? No? What is it?
Manage.
Manage? Okay, that's good. That's good, yes.
Manage
Has to be measurable. Any goal needs to be measurable. If it's not measurable, how am I going to know I'm meeting my goal? Right? I want to eat a taco. I want to have tacos for lunch. My goal is to eat 4 tacos. Is that measurable? Yeah. That's measurable because if I go over there and I start eating a taco and I eat 2 tacos, okay, that's a good thing, but have I met my goal?
halfway there.
I'm halfway, 50% of my goal, I'm halfway there, so my goal is measurable. It has to be measurable. If it is not measurable, then I'm not sure whether or not I met my goal or not. Right? And I can prepare for that. I can get ready for that. Tacos, for me, 4 tacos is way too many. I'm not going to eat any tacos because they got all kind of crud in them that I don't eat. But if I have a goal of eating 4 tacos, I've got to prepare for that, right? It's got to be something so that I can measure what I'm going to do. So, what is the A? See, y'all done gave up on it now, hadn't you? Yeah. All right.
Action.
What is it?
Action.
Action. Okay, there you go. It has to be action-oriented. It has to be actionable. What does the word actionable mean?
Something you can
something I can take action on. Something I can, if my goal is to have a nice 3-bedroom home with 2 baths or a bath and a half and a 3-car garage, but I want it on the south side of Mars. Is that actionable? No, not yet. What's that guy's name? Elon? Oh, Elon, he's working on getting us a house on Mars, but we can't get there yet. So that's not actionable. On the south side of Houston, is that actionable? Yeah. Now, I don't want a house on the south side of Houston. I've lived on the south side of Houston, and I don't want to live on the south side of Houston anymore. But it is actionable. If I do want to, I can. Right? If you got like $11,412.85, you can. So what does the R stand for? Recovery. Somebody said. Realistic. My goal has to make sense, right? My goal has to be realistic. If my goal is to have all stress out of my life and I'm never stressed again in my life, is that realistic? No, that's not realistic. I'm going to be stressed out if my oatmeal's cold. Because I eat oatmeal every now and then. I don't eat it very often because it'll shoot sugar up because it's got a lot of carbs in it. But if I'm eating it, I want it to be warm. I want some, I want the butter in it. If there's no butter, then I'm not going to be happy. And I want a little milk in it, maybe, and I want a little sugar in it, and I want all of that kind of stuff. And so, if it's not right, I'm going to be a little bit stressed out about that. My goal has to be realistic. I've talked to people while I'm going back to school. Okay, what are you going to go back to school to do? And their ideal is to have this degree so they can get this license. And sometimes it's completely unrealistic. Sometimes I got to start here, right? I'm going to have my doctorate degree in 3 years, and I'm starting from nothing. Is that going to work? Is that realistic? No, it's not. You can get a doctorate degree. Everybody in here can. You guys are brilliant. You can certainly do that. But you're going to have to, what's the first degree? I have a doctorate degree. What's the first degree that I started working on?
Associates.
Yeah, I did. I didn't have to, but I did. I started on an associate's degree, and I have an associate's degree in psychology. And so at that point I said, well, I talked to the school and they allowed, and so I went on to get the bachelor's degree, the master's degree. But you can't start up here. I saw a thing on Facebook the other day that said, you can now get a doctorate degree without your master's degree. No, you can't. No, you can't. You might get some kind of piece of paper, but you're not doing it. So that's unrealistic. So your goal has to be real. I can't say the word now. Realistic, but realizable. You must be able to realize that goal. If it's not realizable, it's not a realistic goal, and it's a waste of time, right? All right, what's the T? Somebody tell me what's the T. All right, you wasted your time. Time bound. What does that mean? What does time bound mean?
Time, man.
Yeah, I want to deal with this by this afternoon. I have about 4 things that I'm going to do today that I need to do today, and I have a time. I use this SMART thing all the time, and I have a time situation where that thing is going to be done. I have to do it a note about this group, and I know just about when I want to have that thing done, and I have to meet with some people, and I have that all plugged in there. So it has to be time bound. I am going to get this done. I'm going to get this stress management goal thing lined out by this time. I'm going to do some stuff. I'm building a pond at my home. And not in the house, of course. I've got 8 acres, and I'm having a pond put on there. And I want that done before winter. Got to do that pretty quick, right? Because it's starting to get cold. This is the perfect time to do that. So here's the deal. On a scale of 1 to 10, we may find that my health charges worksheet is going to help us to do these things, and we'll get one of those after a while. On a scale of 1 to 10, 0 to 10, where 0 is not bothersome, but 5 means somewhat bothersome, and 10 means very bothersome, the goal to have an average stress level to be below this number for the next week, would that be a good goal? Could we do something? Would that fit into all of these? It's specific because here's the deal. Whoa, about falling down. Between 0, that's 5, and that's 10. So I want my stress level to be where? 5. Yeah, I want it to be below 5. Because 5 is pretty high, right? If 10 is very, very high, 5 is high. So I want my stress level to be below 5 for how many days a week? How many days a week do I want that level to be there?
As many as possible.
As many as possible?
Yeah, if you manage it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you allow influences and you don't allow influences. You manage it every 7 days a week.
Okay. So I want it to be like that. I want it to be below 5 for 7 days a week. Then you have to go through that thing and say, okay, does that meet everything? Not quite. It's specific, though. I want it to be below 5 for 7 days a week. That's specific.
Is it realistic?
Is it measurable? The second one. Is it measurable? Yeah, it's measurable. You know, if I'm on my 3rd day and I'm starting to stress a little bit, or I'm starting to stress a lot, then I'm going to know that I'm not going to make that goal. So it's measurable. If I can keep myself under control for 3 or 4 days, then it's measurable so I can see what's going on. It is action-oriented because I have to do something, right? If my spouse is the stress bomb in my life, then I may have to separate myself from that spouse for a little bit, right? May have to do something a little bit different. Is 7 days a week realistic?
Yes.
Maybe not. Maybe not. Because I can tell you that I was a little stressed out this morning. Came in very early because, you know, I had this big meeting I had to attend and all of that kind of stuff. And so I was a little stressed out this morning. I got into I got into my office and I'm being stressed out and all of that kind of stuff. And then I reminded myself I hadn't prayed about it. I hadn't done any of the things that I used to bring my stress level down. And so by the time the meeting began, I was completely stress-free. You know, it was not a big deal. And so, but is it time-bound? It's not. He says it's not time-bound, but we have this. This is our goal. So we haven't put in when that's going to be enacted. So when's that going to start? Today. All right. I want to be at a place where my stress level is under control at less than a 5 for 7 days a week within the next 7 days. Is that time bound? That makes it time bound. So it is time bound. Now it is. But what's the only one it doesn't meet really what's the only one it doesn't meet really well? Realistic. Because realistically speaking, are we going to get some stress going on in the next 7 days? And if we say, well, look, I don't want to be stressed above that level for the rest of my life, that kind of puts us in a bad place. It kind of puts us in a hard spot. But it is still, do you believe it's doable? Yeah, it's doable. So that's how we're going to make that goal. It's how we're going to get our goal going on. So we've got a goal to get that down and move over. Here's here's the keys. We don't need to get like this person. So there are some keys that's going to help us to deal with our stress and get it to this level that we want to get it to. So we're going to run through this. This is some activities we can do. One of the things that we need to do is be cognizant of our own stress. What does that mean? I need to know about it. Yeah, I'm cognizant. I need to know about it. I need to have it in my brain. So how do you get to the place where you know about your own stress? I need to track my stress. Right? How do you track your own stress? How do you do that? So here's the deal. Stress affects everybody differently. Anybody here like to fly? Oh, come on. I love to fly. But when my wife and I we went to, where was it? Rhode Island. We went to Rhode Island, and we're flying up there, and it's in the middle of the wintertime. And so she just really doesn't like to fly. And so the stress level that she was under when she got in that airplane, I'm looking around, it's a little commuter airplane, and I'm looking around, and it's really great. And I'm watching the guys up front, and I'm doing all of that stuff, just having a good time. And she's over there like, you know. So her stress level was up here. My stress level was nothing. When we went, we did a week in Rhode Island, and went to Boston and a few other places, and we're flying back, and when we got in the airplane, it was snowing and icing and all of that kind of stuff, and the guys were walking the wings, de-icing the wings, right? And so I'm sitting there, I'm ready to go, let's go. And so they de-iced the wing. I'm looking over there, and my wife says, they're walking on the wings. Oh my God! And what made it even worse, we had to sit there for about an hour. And after we were sitting there, guess what they had to do again? They had to go out there and re-ice the wing, de-ice the wing, so that the airplane's not too heavy to fly, and it's going to ice back up, but it'll start chipping off after you get up there a little bit. But she was freaking, and again, her levels, her freaking out level is way up here. She's just all messed up, and all she's praying and speaking in tongues and everything else. And I'm just watching the guy get the airplane ready. So you need to track your stress. Know that people respond to stress in different ways. Stress affects people differently by regularly monitoring and tracking your stress level. Just how am I feeling right now? Like I was telling you, this morning I had a little stress going. I got up. I usually get up at 4. I got up this morning at 3 so that I could get in here early. I got here at about 6 o'clock in the morning. And I didn't know whether or not I'd be able to get in. And then I thought, sure, I'll be able to get in. Miss Cynthia's there. She's going to let me in. She likes me, so she'll let me in. So by regularly monitoring, tracking your stress, you raise your awareness of the way you experience stress, and you get a better sense of your normal stress level. I'm going to share something with you. I'm not normally stressed out. I was at one time in my life, but I think as I've grown more mature, and y'all noticed I didn't say older, more mature, I just went over 72, so I'm pretty mature. But I just things just don't stress me out. I guess I feel like I don't have a lot to prove to anybody anymore. Okay, this is who I am. This is what you get. You asked for it, you got it. Here it is. That's all that there is. And so, I just don't get stressed out like I used to. So I have tracked my stress level, and I'm pretty much not stressed out. That doesn't mean that I don't get stressed and that's how stress affects me. I don't sleep much when I'm stressed. And sometimes can your job stress you a little bit? Yeah, it can stress you totally and completely out. When somebody tells you that they burned out, all of that stuff, that means I've had counselors quit on me and stuff in the past because they're totally overwhelmed. They weren't dealing with their own stress. So we need to be able to track our stress and understand what it is, get a better idea of what's going on, knowing how your body reacts to stress. My body reacts to stress by keeping me up at night. I don't sleep well. And so sometimes the other day I got up at 2 o'clock in the morning. And so at some point you got to say, okay, that's enough of that. I'm not stressed out over that. So what you do, you can go and one of the ways that I deal with stress, whatever's stressing me out, I want to go and look at that in the eyeball. Whatever it is. If I'm stressed because of money things, I'm going to go check out some money things. If I'm stressed because of work, I'm going to go to my work and figure out what to do there. Go to my boss and say, hey, this or that. I'm going to do something to get that stress level down. So this can also help us to alert ourselves to when our stress level is rising. If I'm aware of what causes stress in my life, then I'm going to realize that, hey, my stress level is rising. What do you do when your stress level is rising? Say it again.
Drink vodka.
Drink vodka.
Count to 10.
Yeah, I count to 10. Take some deep breaths. Do some exercise. Don't drink vodka. That's not good.
Tell your wife to sit down and be quiet.
Tell your wife to sit down and be quiet. Now we know why he's here,
That's why I'm single, Dr.
That's why he's single. Yeah, we don't do that. No, don't do that. That's what causes stress in your life. I will tell you, one of the things that causes stress in my life is I went to church Sunday, and one of the ministers at my church came and told me, he said, hey, I've got your wife is going with my wife to Cleveland. I said, Ohio? He said, no, Texas. So my wife and this other lady who's crazy, they're going to Cleveland, Texas for a minister's thing. And that makes me a little bit, that brings my stress level up just a little bit, because when they're over there, if she sees something like the Taj Mahal that she wants to buy, she'll rent a trailer and bring that thing home. So, that's a little stressful, So, we need to identify, here's the big thing, and I think this is the big thing. I know this is kind of boring, but look, I think this is the big thing. We need to identify the sources of our stress. What stresses you out? What do you think stresses you? What's the big stressor in your life? What is it? Somebody said something.
Being here.
Being here? This can be a stress bomb for people being here. I'm not at my house. I'm not doing the things I usually do. So this can be a stress place for you.
The thought of actually going outside that gate and not using vodka to actually get by.
Right.
To just be like sober and live.
But yeah, and that is a big thing. Being sober in a drunk world. Being and for me, sometimes being a Christian in a world that is not that, that can be a stress bomb. One of the big things that stress me out is my job. Y'all let me just brag a little bit. I'm good at what I do. I'm good at what I do, but there are still things in this job here, being the clinical manager here, that I'm not sure about. Things that I don't know. But I want everything to be perfect, right? I want everything to be just right. And sometimes they're not. They weren't yesterday. I'm in my office and my boss comes in and another lady comes in. And when they come in, they got this look in their eye. And you know the look. And they close the door. And when they close the door, I'm trapped. You know, okay. And that by the time they were through with me, yeah, oh my God. So that sometimes will stress me out. I make sure everything, and of course, everything is not always perfect, right? It's not gonna be. I rebuilt my own house I bought this old house and we started working on it and I built that whole thing, just rebuilt that whole thing myself. We live in it now. And the other day I put up another board and it was perfectly straight, level, plumb. It was beautiful. We had to take it out and throw it away because it didn't fit with anything else because everything else is kind of like that. So I want everything to be perfect and all of that stuff. And when things aren't, it stresses me out. So I know the source of my stress. That's the big source of my stress. There's other things. I've got a granddaughter who has some issues. She's a little stressful because when my daughter will text me and say, "Dad, this is going on," that's stressful to me. And I have a son that's not exactly, so that's stressful to me. So we need to know knowing the sources of my stress is critical. Why is it so critical? Because if I don't know what stresses me out, like these ladies staying in the thing there for 2 hours after I left because they're doing secret stuff. And I don't know what they're doing. They're probably in there talking about me for all of that time. But knowing the sources of your stress is critical because you might get into it without knowing what you're getting into. I need to know what stresses me out so that I can deal with it or I can stay away from it. How many people know that sometimes people in our lives are the greatest stress bombs in our life? There are people, there's some people, man, good grief, that when you get around that person, they're going to stress you out. That's one of the other reasons that we tell people don't go around old people, places, and things. Because if that person is a stress bomb, what's the best way to deal with stress? Vodka. Yeah.
See, you kept on. Now you're going to bring it out.
Okay.
My biggest stress,
yeah,
it is a person.
Yeah.
And it's an instructor.
Yeah.
His name is Dr. G.
Yes.
Because I stress because he says he's working on his mind problem.
Yeah.
So when you're teaching me something, and we're going through this right now, right. See, I don't know if you telling me the truth or you're not.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But specific, the measure, the action, or
yeah.
I mean,
we don't know.
Stressing about being straightforward with me right now, or he's just pulling my leg.
You never know. You'll never know. And that causes stress. Yes.
Yeah. You mentioned when you stress about something, you pray about it, right?
Yes, I do.
That's one way you can deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah.
This is why it's imperative for me to have a higher power. If I couldn't go to the Holy Spirit, if I couldn't go to the Lord Jesus, I don't know what I would do. Because here's the deal. There's lots of stuff that happens in my life that causes stress in my life. There is. And to have the ability to go to my higher power is amazing. Because I know that whatever's going on in my life, He can deal with that. He can handle it. It's just an amazing thing. So, yes, I do a lot of praying. My Bible tells me to pray without ceasing. And I don't believe that He means just to go around babbling all the time. But what I think He means is any issue that's in your life, pray about it. Anything that you're considering, anything you're worried about, anything you're doing, go take it to the Lord. Do it. This morning, I was got up at 3, and I read a chapter in the New Testament, a chapter in the Old Testament every day, and then I read the commentary that goes with them to get somebody else's view all of that stuff. But even though I had this stressful thing that was going to happen today, I did not take it to the Lord in prayer. I didn't do it. I just thought about that when I started teaching this morning. I should have taken what? You've got all of this fantastic ability. You've got all this fantastic place to go with all of this. You didn't do it. So, so that's a little bit stressful to me too when I know how to deal with it and I don't do it. So, after you have a good idea of the things that cause you stress, after you know what it is, and I know what it is 99.9% of the time, if there's any stress in my life at all, it's about the job or the church. Because I want everything to be perfect. And of course, nothing is. And so, I've had to get to the place where, okay, it's not perfect, and guess what? It's not liable to be perfect because guess what? I'm not perfect, and I'm not going to be perfect, and I don't want to be perfect. I want to be normal. Because, see, I know all of you guys, guess what? Y'all not perfect either. No. I can just hear the ladies over at North saying, I'm perfect, but I'm no. Now, here's the deal. You can develop a plan for dealing with everything that is stressing you out. The way that I have dealt with the issue of perfectionism is to, first off, realize I'm not perfect. And secondly, to take that to the Lord my God. I'm not perfect. He is. Let him deal with that. And embrace the fact that I'm not perfect. If somebody comes to me now, somebody came to me and said, hey, Doc, that's wrong. Man, I fall all to pieces. Sometimes I stay up all night trying to get that right, redoing everything I'd ever done from there all the way to here. I don't do that anymore. When somebody says, hey, that's not right, I tell them, okay, you're right. Yeah, Q did that. Somebody else did that. Not really, no. I did that, and you know what I did? I did that wrong. That's wrong. Okay. We can refix it. We can fix it, or we can do with it like it is. It's fine. And, I had a guy, one time I went and asked, he had about 2 or 3 boats, and I said, look, I want to go fishing. Let me borrow your boat. And he said, yeah, you can borrow that one right there. I said, okay. So I pushed that thing off. Me and my grandson got into the boat, and we're about halfway out to where we're going to fish, and noticed that there's water coming in. And that boat filled up. By the time we got it back to the shore, it was about to sink. And I'm going over there to the guy, and I said, hey, look, dude, there's a hole in that boat. He said, yeah, I know.
You got to put the drain through.
Yeah, no, it had this thing. Look, this boat was about to break in half. And he said, yeah, I know there's a hole in that boat. I said, well, man, why would you loan me a boat with a hole in it like that? He said, because I'm about to use my boat. I'm about to use the good one. So I didn't want somebody out in the lake with my good boat. So he sent me out there. So, is that stressful? Of course it is. But how did he deal with the stress? He dealt with the stress by giving me the bad boat. I'm going on. So I said, look, we all know what mindfulness is. Once we figure out what's guide us, once we figure out what's going to cause us some stuff, we can practice mindfulness. Now, I know, look, there was a time when I stood against mindfulness, didn't like it all that much, called it a new age, nothing, and all of that, but that's not true. Mindfulness is a good place to go. Mindfulness means I'm going to sit down in the second, in the moment where I am, and I'm going to notice everything around me for a moment. What that does is focus me, and I need to be focused. Mindfulness is a way to be fully aware in the present moment of physical sensations. What's going on right now? Emotions, thoughts. It's pretty good. It's kind of like a secondary thing to prayer. First thing, I'm going to get on my knees and talk to my God. I pray on the way to work while I'm driving, so I can't get on my knees, but then I pray when I'm here, and I do all of that kind of stuff. But mindfulness means I'm just, how am I feeling? Why am I feeling what I'm feeling? Why, what comes next? What's going on? Why is it like this? So it talks me about my sensations, the emotions, thoughts, but without judging them. I shouldn't, you know, I've had a lot of people tell me, I shouldn't feel that way. Why shouldn't you feel that way? You feel that way. You have emotions. They're, you know, they're valid. Regular daily practice of stress management techniques will allow you to deal with your stress in a healthier way. Sometimes we freak out, people wind up in the hospital, we have heart attacks, strokes, all of that kind of stuff. And when you look at it, you go all the way back to the genesis of that, and it comes from just the stress that's in our life. And it's messing up our physical health. So we need to take care of that. Mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBS. Mindfulness-based stress reduction. These have been proven. These are techniques that have been proven to reduce stress and stress-related conditions. They can reduce anxiety, improve attention and memory, help manage chronic pain. These techniques center on being fully aware in the present moment without judgment. And we're gonna do some mindfulness things, not today, but at some point we're going to do some mindfulness things where we get ourselves to the place where we can do that, when we feel our own emotions, know our own emotions, know our own thoughts, know where we are, and not be judgmental with it. The next thing, look, this one is talk about this all the time, and that's being physically active, just doing some type of exercise. It says, look, physical activity is one of the most important and the most effective stress management tools techniques that's out there. Physical activity increases endorphins, improves sleep, raises self-esteem, and releases muscle tension. Just doing anything will cause all of those good things. Moderate physical activity is good for stress management. Overly vigorous activity can actually contribute to the stress. So we want to do it just moderately, do what you want to do. Going to exercise to help relieve stress, do so at an intensity level that is comfortable to you. So we've got a couple of more, but we're going to wait till after our break to go over those. So we'll be back about 15 minutes after.
See, they talking about stress and stressing out.
Yeah.
Huh?
Talking
about stress and stressing out. Does me.
Talking about stress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like 9 over magic.
Yeah. I do that with a lot of stuff.
Coffee, no sugar. No.
Oh, yeah, I was trying to expect them. Yeah, I was trying to expect them. I probably. Não vamos não, mulher, espera, então,
So why you taking it at night? Oh, I think this mom says. You get some ice about it. You go check this too. No, this is a good best. Doctor even said that they wanted to take. I was wondering. Doctor even said he was going to take one down and all five. Good morning. How are you? Yeah. Okay. And then you know the question. Yeah. Yeah. Hard. There you go. Get up. Big time. Big time. Yeah. I put it in the ass. I showed it. I showed the board. I do. It says big time. Big, big time. He should have wake up a man when you get there. I need to offer. Is that the stuff that I have? That was just some swim down. Hey, I don't know if we got there one enough. Okay. Yeah. Hey, long as they know the I also got shoes. I think she did walk. I thought about it. No, I know. That's not. She's gone. But yeah, she left. So that's something that's out there. I haven't asked. Just what's happening, baby? What's going on? Yeah. Does you look out for it? Or you just call it call? You just yeah. I like to ride. Look at you, you put the big album on you. Yeah. Jail. Okay, it was actually Alabama. Yeah. Alabama. Oh, yeah. He gave me I looked at him like, because he had two lights down. But that was it that he was. Taking count a lot of those. Then it was black. Oh, man.
To drive.
So, I was just a kid, but understanding listening to the men's talk. Because we go to our else.
Thanks.
Still, but I didn't know they was doing. They still had the album. But anyway, that's not the first time I did when I was yeah. In this environment, it's important to get rid watching it makes sense. I said, yeah, tapping behind that door. Right now, you can tell. Tapping behind that door. Put it in. This is what I do. Oh, yeah. I was trying to get the hurt. Dang, it's going to be like, so then I said, it's funny. I said, now this is still already. So, Shiv had 2 speeds. Walk, full off, and then okay, I'll again, again, yeah, again. Already, again. No, she drugged one of my coworkers. She broke another one's tooth back in the mouth. You riding her back, stop. Brings it up. So you got the other one. Oh, no, so she acting up in the morning because he's trying to make her out. She ain't trying to do that. She trying to come out. And she threw her head back on. Hit him in the face? One for the knee, one for the so I said, man, damn it. So he broke out. So you break it, did she break it? Oh, yeah. She always goes. Joey got drugged.
So when an inmate does that, when an inmate does that, whether it's a man meal, that's a charge.
It was a horse.
It was a horse. It was a horse.
Yeah.
Oh.
Horse went to trial. Yeah. He got to make her fly because she don't fly.
Sounds a lot like horse poop.
She don't fly. She don't do no fly. She don't go walk. She just pull out a sprint.
All right.
Brother,
All right, we're back.
Care of this stuff?
We're going to be here for just a few more minutes this morning. Get this done so that we can get out here and go to lunch and do all of those things. For some reason, I'm hungry. So, starving to death this morning. So, one of the other things that we can do to help with our stress level and all of these things, you guys know all of these things, is to practice deep breathing. And deep breathing is not just breathing deep. It's deep breathing. There's a particular way that you do it. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But it's one of the fastest ways to deal with stress in that moment. When we realize that, hey, you know what, I'm stressing out here, things are getting a little bit out of control, things are out of hand, and I need to do something. When you know you need to do something, exercise is great. Exercise is something we should do. But exercise is something that takes some planning and some doing. Takes some time to get it, I'm going to go over and work out today at the thing, but I've got to drive over there. I've got to do some stuff where deep breathing I can do right away. Right at this moment. When sometimes when the boss calls me to her office or something and I go in and I sit down, I can sit down there, and when she begins to read the riot act to me, then I can breathe deep. I can practice deep breathing, which will keep that level of anxiety down before I allow the stress level to go up. I don't have to let the stress level get to that place and then try to bring it down. I can get it stopped before it goes there. So that's a good plan. So use deep breathing to gain control over stress, over anxiety, over any kind of panic that might be setting in for you. It's also effective for managing depression. It helps with emotional responses. It can even be helpful for some medical conditions. Really helpful for some of those things. The more you practice, the better you're going to become at managing stressful situations. Here's the deal. Here's the activity. Here's what you do. The next time you rate your stress level to be at a 7, remember, we want ours to stay a little bit below a 5. If something happens that causes it to bump up above the 5 and get up to 6 or 7 or 8 or something like that, practice deep breathing to immediately lower your stress level. So how do you deep breathe? Go 3 times 3. You go, that gets your breath down into the bottom of your lungs. If you are a smoker, that can actually hurt. You get because you haven't had air into the bottom of your lungs for a minute. And so, when you suck that in for a 3rd time, it's going to get way down there. And sometimes it's kind of hard to do because you do it. It's called 3 and 3. You do it take 3 deep breaths 3 different times. Sometimes, look, it's a good idea to do the deep breathing exercise while seated because sometimes it'll make you lightheaded. And if you fall over, you might think you have grounds to sue me. And so we don't want to be doing any of that, So you go, you do that 3 times, and they tell you, and I don't know, I find it easier to breathe back out through my mouth, but they tell you to let it come back out through your nose. So that is going to bring down whatever that is. It's also good for you just for health reasons because it aerates every cell in your body. When you do that, you get all of this oxygen into your body, and your heart sends that oxygen to every cell that's in your body. So it's really good for you just in health practices as well. And then, here's the deal. You got stress in your life. You got some stuff going on in your life. Y'all know what self-care is. we need to do that. We need to have self-care. I had a deal when I was out at the prison where, people would come to see me and I would fire them for 15 minutes. I've had people come in there all stressed out, so-and-so did this, and I had a chair that sat in my corner over there, and there were some magazines and stuff like that around, and I would just, when they came in, they coming up to me with all of this stress and anxiety and all of this stuff, so I would fire them. And, the first time I did that, we had a few people get a little bit more stressed out, but I had to let them know you're fired for the next 15 minutes. And what that means is you can't talk to me, and I can't talk to you, and you can't talk to anybody else. You don't work here. You can't talk to a client. You can't talk to another counselor. You can't talk to your boss. You can't talk to anybody. You have to go sit in that corner over there. You're fired. And so, we don't want any interaction with you at all. Just go over there and sit down and chill out. So that was self-care for those folks. They would go over there. They would practice deep breathing. They would practice pleasant imagery. You know what pleasant imagery is? That's when you pick something that you like to do. If you're a fisherman, you like to go fishing, find you a fishing hole in your brain, formulate it in your mind. And when something stressful or crazy going on in your life, go to your happy place. That really, and I know we make fun of that stuff, and you don't have to tell anybody else that you do that, but go to that place anyway and stay hidden there. Plan some pleasant activities. What do you like to do? What's really fun? What's really fun for you?
Like being in nature.
Being in nature. Okay, running naked through the woods seems to help his anxiety level. What do you really like to do? What's fun for you? What is that? Fishing. Fishing. Skate. Skate. I love to watch those things on. These guys are skateboarding and they miss and they find the pole and it's. You can see they've seen heaven. So, Mr. Gold, what's really fun for you?
Watching sports.
Watching sports, playing. What's fun?
You asking me?
I am. That's all I'm looking.
You don't want to ask me that question.
Oh, come on,
no.
Yeah.
Pass.
So what's fun for you?
Just golf. I love it.
Oh, yeah. What's fun for you?
Riding dirt bikes.
What's fun for you?
Riding dirt bikes.
Riding dirt bikes. Yeah. Okay, Mr. Wingate, what's fun for you?
I go fishing.
I go fishing. Okay. Mr. Adams, what do you like to do? You hadn't found anything fun? I'm going to have to help you. Miss Cynthia, what's fun for you?
It might be watching.
Just dating. Okay. Yeah. All right. So, research has shown that the things we do affect the way we feel. That makes sense? Sure it does. I like to go to state parks. I enjoy hiking through the woods and state parks. I like that. The last one we went to Roosevelt State Park, and it has a lake called Shadow Lake. And it's a real nice lake, got a lot of ducks and stuff on it. I don't do a lot on the lakes. I go look at them, but I don't do a lot on them. But just hiking out through the woods and at Rickwood State Park, they got all these mountains and stuff. And we went to Dakota State Park years ago. And man, that's just way up in the mountains. And just love all that kind of stuff. So, when stressful things can hit me, then I can think about those things, but actually doing them are something that I enjoy doing. And y'all know I like to fly, so I enjoy flying and stuff like that. So the things I want to do, if I'm really enjoying something, I want to go do something that I really enjoy. That will bring that stress level down. But here's the deal: sometimes we have to force that, right? Sometimes you don't have time to do it. I have a guy that I know. I was going to call him my friend, but I don't know him that well. But he's an LCDC, and he likes to skydive. I don't understand that. I mean, okay, but whenever he can, it cost him a bit of change. LCDCs don't make that much money, so he saves up his money and he keeps his parachute in the trunk of his car. And he'll go when he gets enough money. He'll go out at the airport, and they'll fly him up, and he can jump out once or twice. Yeah. But he keeps that thing in his trunk so that if the opportunity arises, he can do it. I know other people who keep their rod and reel in their trunk. So if the opportunity arises.
I'm sorry about that. I was writing my report. But what did you say you like to do?
What did I get to do?
What did you like to do?
What do I like to do? I like to go to state parks.
Oh.
And I like to fly.
Oh, I was just making sure you said something about flying.
Yeah, I love to fly.
I was admit I caught you in the way.
No. I love to fly.
So,
You get up about 1,500 feet. What we say is we're the masters of low and slow. 1,500 feet, 120 mile an hour. That's great. It's great. So I enjoy doing those kinds of things. Some people, like my wife, I've invited her 100 times. She won't even go watch. That's not. She's with Miss Cynthia. She gonna sit on her chair and watch the TV. So, but when you spend time in activities that you find relaxing, enjoyable, or just plain fun, then you tend to feel less distressed and happier. And I know y'all enjoy being here. I enjoy being in the facility. I enjoy being here, interacting with you guys. I enjoy interacting with the other counselors and stuff like that. And I will tell you this. I've had a couple of people say, well, how long do you think you're going to continue doing this? I can tell you exactly how long I'm going to do it. As long as I enjoy it. As long as I'm having fun. As long as I can get up in the morning and feel excited about going to work, to see what smells I can get out of Mr. Q that day, stuff like that. And as long as I can feel excited about what I'm doing and all, I'm going to do it. So I enjoy this. And that's really good for me because I get to do what I enjoy doing and get paid for it. Same thing at church. I really enjoy being able to preach and teach and do all those kinds of things. And so, you get paid for doing the things you enjoy. I remember my instructor, he told me, he said, when flying over somewhere, and he said, can you believe they pay me to do this? I said, no. He paid $50 an hour to, fly around. Okay, well, that's good stuff. So, but you're a whole lot less if you're doing something that you enjoy doing. That's why it's important to take a vacation. I had a lady that worked for us that just did not. She was afraid, I think, somebody was going to take her job or something, and she just did not ever want to take a vacation. And then finally, she got married to this guy who he insisted we're going to Hawaii. So now they go to Hawaii every year, or they did back when I knew them. They went to Hawaii every year. And so, it's just, you've got to have that time. You are a much better employee. You're a much better person. You're a much happier person. You feel better and all of those things if you practice self-care. So you need to take a vacation. You need to go somewhere. I had a guy in my church here. He just left, but it was a monetary thing to them. They didn't have enough money to go off and go on vacation and stuff like that. That's understandable. That's one of the reasons my wife and I go to state parks. They're pretty reasonable. You can get in there if you want to go to a state park. It's like $6 or $8 a day to go in there. If you're going to stay overnight and carry a trailer, sometimes it's a little bit more expensive. You got to pay for that. But it's even if you can't go to England or someplace like that, you need to do something. There's a beach less than 100 miles from here. I live 15 miles from the beach. So you need to go, you need to do something. For many people, life demands seem to replace pleasant activity. Life demands are going, there are things that are demands upon you. You have to do it. You got to work. You know, we've got to do things with the family. We've got to do this and we have to do that. But we need to have something that's pleasant and happy that we can do that makes us happy. If you notice that happening to you, it's time for some positive time for yourself. Go on a cruise. You know, down if you go to Galveston, they have a dolphin cruise. It's not a real cruise. It's one of those smaller boats, but you go up into the thing and they show you all of these different dolphins and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of nice, huh? So we need to be able to figure out something that we enjoy doing other than using alcohol, drugs, or anything else. Now, the activity with this is pretty interesting. Actions affect emotions. We need to know that what I do affects how I feel emotionally. So plan a pleasant activity using whatever works for you. We need to do that. So I don't want to do that. So there's some things. Look, one of the things that we've talked about this already, but we're going to run through here real quickly. We still have about a half an hour. But we need to identify our stressors. And I do have some stress worksheets, but we're not going to, I'm going to hand some out, but not today. So we need to use this tool. There's a lot of things in here that can cause stress in our life. Adjusting to any type of life activity. Any type of life change can cause stress in your life. Sometimes it's short-term stress, sometimes it's longer-term stress. What do you think adjusting to college life would be? If you're going to go to college, would that be short-term or long-term? What would it be?
Short-term stress.
I think it could be both, yeah. I think it could be short-term stress because when you're getting there, before you're adjusted, it's a whole different lifestyle, a whole different place, a whole different thing. You're not used to it. Once you get used to it, the stress of working through that college thing can cause you some of that stuff. If you have some conflict with a family member or a friend, is that long-term or short-term? Usually short-term, but I guess it's according to what you allow it to become, right? If you allow it to become something that affects your whole friendship for the rest of your life, then it could be long-term. Keeping healthy, is that long-term or short-term? That's going to be long-term. Yeah, because I'm going to stay healthy the rest of my life. Money worries. That's according to whether or not you get a job when you get out of here quickly, because money worries will go away if you get a well-paying job, right? So it could be either one. Travel, vacations, holidays, getting set and ready to go on those things. That can be short-term, long-term. You know, my wife and I have a vacation deal at the bank. One of our things at the bank is a vacation fund, and we put a little money in there so that when that fund gets to a certain amount, we say, "Hey, it's time to go take a vacation," and we're going to take that vacation whether that makes it or not. But it's good to have it. When you have these things, when you get some stress in your life, and you don't do some self-care, then you're going to have some things happen to you, and there's some stress symptoms that show up, and you can know that you have too much stress in your life if some of these things start happening. And I've had people tell me, and they attribute they attribute what's going on in their life to other things other than stress. And so we need to know some of these things that happen to us, some of these symptoms come from stress. When you know how your body responds to stressors, you can focus your attention on finding the best stress management technique for each one of these. So sometimes, have you ever had a backache? The older you get, the more people expect you to have backaches. My back's hurting right now a little bit. Yeah. So, if you have stress can cause a backache. How about a change in sex drive? One day you're a raging animal, and the next day maybe not. Stress can cause you to be a bit lackadaisical in your sex drive. So we need to know that that could come from stress. How about chest pains? What do we attribute most chest pains to?
The gas.
Gas. Okay, gas.
Or
Maybe a heart attack.
panic attack.
Anxiety, panic attack. Yeah, stuff like that. But a lot of times it's just stress. Stress can cause you to have what's called angina, and that's not really something that's going to cause you to have a heart attack or something, but it feels like it. And so, what do you do when you have chest pain?
Stress.
What do you do? Yeah, if I have chest pains or have a little heaviness or something, I'm going to go to the doctor. That would probably help. It can cause chest tightness, and we know that also we think of as a heart attack symptom, but it can just be stress. A lot of times it's stress. Digestive issues. I've been having some stomach issues here lately. I think that's probably stress. Yeah. General muscle tension. If your muscles, your back, your shoulders, stuff like that are hurting, could be that. Headache. Heart palpitations. Now, I'm going to tell you, if you got tightness in your chest and chest pain and heart palpitations, don't sit around and say, man, I got too much stress. Go to the doctor. Let them tell you that you have stress in your life, other than, all over that. Fatigue, lack of energy, muscle cramps, neck and shoulder pain, just general pain over your whole body. All of this stuff is just nasty. Teeth grinding at night, upset stomach, nausea, depression, anxiety, forgetfulness, lack of motivation, loneliness, sadness, depression, eating when you're not hungry. Anybody eat when they're not hungry? I must be terribly stressed out because I'm going to tell you this morning, y'all know I'm in recovery from sugar. Well, I relapsed yesterday, but today I started over again, and but look, I went to Miss Susan's office in there, a whole box of candy sitting there, walked out to my car, nothing but thoughts of sugar on my mind, so it's like that. And a lot of the times I just snack. I don't know why I like to do that, but I do it at night, when everything's over with, I'm sitting down watching television. Last night I had popcorn, stuff like that.
Or craving.
Yeah, it's like it is, and I'll tell you, y'all don't realize it. I crave sugar just like we crave alcohol and drugs. I remember the craving, serious craving for sugar. I mean, for alcohol, and goodness, it's the same or worse when it comes to sugar. I walked through things. I went to a Market Basket yesterday, and I was walking down the thing there, and they had a whole box of moon pies, and they were on sale. And, oh my goodness. And, so I needed those things. I didn't want them. I needed them, but I did not buy them. I feel really good about those things. I didn't do it. So again, we're going to look at real quickly about mindfulness, and I don't want to stick a whole lot on it, but I do want to talk about it because mindfulness is this right here, mindfulness-based stress reduction. And it's going to help us reduce the stress in our lives. We learn how to do it. So mindfulness meditation. We talked a little bit about that. The intention of mindfulness meditation is to be fully aware of what's going in the present moment without any judgment. It's, okay, today it's raining. Raining is not a bad thing. Raining is not a good thing. Raining is what? A natural phenomenon. It's no big deal. It's raining. So we want to be able to understand that, okay, it's raining, but we're not going to judge that situation at all. Then there's compassion meditation. Y'all ever heard of compassion meditation? This meditation can lower stress and stress hormone levels and raise your self-esteem. We need to just sit down and look. And when I'm meditating, I'm deeply thinking about whatever it is. They probably thought they were at Walmart. So it's going to raise my self-esteem. It can improve self-compassion by working on unhelpful thoughts and by practicing this meditation. Somebody tells you, well, you know, you're just plain stupid. Are you stupid? No. No, we're brilliant. We're not stupid. So in the compassion meditation, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to think about and meditate on my good points. I want y'all to know this. Being prideful is not a good thing. But understanding that God don't make no junk is a good thing. Yeah, I'm wonderfully and fearfully made. I'm a powerful spiritual being. I'm something special in the eyes of God. Now, He loves me enough to die for me. So I'm not somebody that should have low self-esteem, right? I should have high self-esteem. So without being braggadocious about it or anything like that. So body scan meditation, that's it. Okay. I do that a little bit, you know. And you see guys, if you go over here and work out at the gym, you'll see guys doing the body scan meditation all over the place. You know? Taking inventory. I don't do that anymore. But I was in here and Miss one of the count. I'm not going to tell you that Miss Casey, so y'all need to know that. But I was talking, you know, she was talking about this person. She was kind of a small guy, and I said, well, I'm kind of a small guy, but I have these big old guns. She broke out laughing. And so I had to go and do some body scan meditation to help myself stay get back to where it's supposed to be. Yeah, you know, that was bad. So this meditation is deeply relaxing, can help you become more accepting of areas of pain and discomfort. Just go through your body. Take a look at what's going on in your body. Think about those things. Meditate on those things. Okay, I'm this, I'm that. Meditate on how your body and you know how God made you, and it can help you build that back up. This one is really fun for me. Is mindful eating exercises. That sounds a little weird, but this exercise helps you to practice mindfulness with something that you do every day. When I sit down and practice, I do that. I'm going to do that in a few minutes here. It makes my food more enjoyable. I sit down and I just think about, meditate on every morsel of food that's in my plate. Because this, again, is the temple of God. So I'm putting into this why I don't smoke, that's why I don't drink, that's why I don't use sugar, that's why I don't put all this junk into my body, because this is the temple of the most holy God. The Holy Spirit lives in here. So when I look at that food that's going to go in here, I look at every morsel of that food and thank God for every morsel of it as it goes in. And it says, look, something you do every day, you will learn how to increase your awareness while eating, knowing what you eat and what it's going to do, and which can increase mindfulness and improve your eating habits overall. There are things I don't want to put in my body. Right? Y'all like baked? How many people like baked potatoes? Yeah. With all of the trimming. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So you know that if you take that baked potato and you scoop it all out, get all of the baked potato out, and then you fill the skin back up with just pure cane sugar. Would you eat that? It's about the same thing. If you eat that baked potato with all of the trimming, it's about the same as eating that skin full of nothing but pure cane sugar. So, yeah.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Crush it.
Well, the deal is,
I believe you're lying. I believe.
it's true. The deal is that you're supposed to eat by color code, right? You eat all of the green stuff that you want to eat. Any kind of green food you eat. I'm not talking about the cheese that's been in the icebox for 4 years. I'm talking about greens, you know, leafy green vegetables and stuff like that. Eat all that you want to eat. Yellow vegetables and you eat just You can eat some of that, but you don't want to eat a whole lot of it. Bread is the same way. Eat some of it, not a lot of it. White, you don't eat any of it. White is all solid carbohydrates and really bad for you. That includes potatoes, rice, bread, anything that's good. All of those things you know you way limit those. Those are every now and then. You don't eat that very often. If you eat a lot of carbohydrates, you're just gonna balloon up. You'll just be big.
What do carrots stand?
Carrots, they're the same as you don't want to eat a whole lot of them. Carrots, I love carrots. My wife buys me those little bitty carrots. I eat those things a lot, but they are the same as the yellow stuff because they are they have a lot of sugar in them. Now it's normal sugar, but you don't want to get a whole lot of that in here. Carrots are good, but not.
Okay, so what are you saying now? Carrots not good for the eyesight?
Well, carrots have carotene in them, and carotene is slightly good for you. It's not like if you eat carrots, you're going to have 20/20 vision. If you don't, you're going to go blind. Carrots are not the end all for your sight. People, that I don't know where they come from, except that they do have carotene in them, which is slightly good.
I know for me, I'm not diabetic, right?
Yeah.
But like yellow this, green that, don't eat too much meat, watch out for bread. All this stuff really takes out the enjoyment to have food. Yeah. It's like I enjoy. We're not supposed to eat so much rice. Here we eat a lot of rice. You know what I mean? We just do. We eat a lot of noodles. All these things and too much is not good for us. So that's not the thing. But the thing is, it's like I love vegetables.
Sure.
I love pot roast. I love pork roast. I love spaghetti. I love all of it. And it's like to say, oh, well, don't eat too much of that. Or, maybe a cup of, who eats a cup of spaghetti? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like who has like a serving, right? From what I would gather is like, don't eat a half pound of pot roast with, you know what I mean? So it's like, man, it's too much, man. You know what I mean? And
it is.
And I really, if I were diabetic, right, I would probably be concerned about these things and be more mindful of them, right? But I'm gonna eat.
And I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. The issue is that eating everything that I want to eat, paying no attention to what I eat, is the one thing that takes us to that place of diabetes because we put so much crap into our foods nowadays. There's so much junk in your food. We spend a lot of money buying organics and stuff like that. And, it costs a lot to eat that way. But you feel better once you eat it. Now, I don't do that the way that I should do it. But I'm like you. I love to eat. That's the issue. I've eaten whatever I want to eat. Now that I'm where I am, I don't have a choice but to pay attention.
I was going to say, I ain't trying to start no ball with you, but it's just like they say about organic.
Yeah.
You don't really know it's organic. They just put that on it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You go over the mill, organic fruit stand or whatever, and you make right over in a ring, because you believe and trust in me. See, if you let it stand, we would come back.
Yeah.
You do what? You exaggerate.
But here's the deal. You have to research the stuff, and there's a barcode on there. And if you look on the barcode and the first number on the barcode is a 9, that's actually organically grown and doesn't have any pesticides on it, doesn't have anything like that. The only fertilizer is poop. And so it's, but it has to have that 9 on it. If it just says organic and it doesn't have the 9, you're right. It's a crapshoot. You don't know where that is from. So my wife buys eggs that begin with the 9, which means that they were free-range chickens and all of this kinds of stuff, and one egg costs about what a dozen eggs cost. So, but it's good food. So we've already, and we've talked about it. We've actually done it a few times. Progressive muscle relaxation thing. This helps us with stress when we're beginning to stress and all of that kind of stuff. Is progressive muscle relaxation, which means I harden my muscles, I tense my muscles, and then I let them relax. I usually start from my toes and then go all the way up through the top of your head. Now, it's hard to tense the top of your head, but you can tense your neck muscle, stuff like that. It's exercise. Can help you become aware of muscle tension. I've had folks when we were actually doing the exercise go, ooh, you all right? Yeah, that hurts when I do that. Well, that's because you have a lot of tension in there, and you probably need a good massage or something like that to get that out. I have a friend, and I'm calling her my friend, but I haven't talked to her in years, so I guess she's not my friend. But she was somebody I knew years ago, and that's what she's a massage therapist, and she did massage for people who had, stress and all of that kind of stuff. And for a couple $100, you get all of that stuff out of there. And then after she finished with the massage, you had to go and drink about a gallon of water because it released all of the poisons that were in your body, and you had to, urinate them out. So that's a good thing. And then there's a thing called a mindfulness circle. This image will help you return to mindful awareness throughout the day. You use these techniques and you can find them helpful. You can speak with other people who do it, and it's just a really good thing to do. Mindfulness meditation, what it does is it anchors yourself in the present. It focus as you breathe. Okay, do it on your breath as you inhale and you exhale. Breathing mindfully does not include a conscious changing of your breath. It's just you're easing it in and out. You set aside 1 to 5 minute periods of time. Tell yourself that you're not going to engage in thoughts at that time. As thoughts pop up, just notice them and let them go. As you notice your mind thinking about things, try to let those thoughts go without judging them and return your attention to the experience of just breathing. Point is not to stop having thoughts. The point of this meditation is to become more aware of your thoughts without automatically engaging them. Because as a thought comes into our minds, we automatically engage those thoughts. Like when the squirrel runs by out front, a lot of us will automatically engage that thought. There's a squirrel. And immediately your mind is going. So we can acknowledge the thought, yes, there's a squirrel. And then go back to just thinking about my breathing. Just breathing in and out. Breathing. And for long, that's where you're going to be, just by yourself, thinking. If focusing on your breath does not work to bring you back into the present moment, you can focus on anything in the present, like the sound. Picture your life, a candle flame, as long as you don't have to think about it. I do that I have in my office at home, I have several paintings all through our house. We had a friend of ours who had an auction, and we've got these really nice paintings that sold at an auction. Sometimes you get them for $15. So great. But I have some old stuff. I've got some stuff in, and so I can focus on those pictures, and that's what I do. So here's the deal. The thing about all of this today is that stress is going to happen. We're going to have some stress in our life. We don't need to allow, we don't have to allow stress to overtake us, stress to overwhelm us. We can deal with that stress. We don't have to let anything that's going on in our life get us to the place of stress that we can't deal with. When stress gets too much, it's called distress. I don't ever want to get to the place where I'm experiencing distress. So we need to breathe. We need to learn to think. We need to learn to do the things that's going to bring the stress down. Also need to understand that there are things that I know are going to cause me stress in my life. And when I know what's going to cause me stress, I need to stay away from it. All right? Questions, comments, or snide remarks? Mr. Gold already used up all his snide remarks. All right, sir. Thank